If I could assume. Now, this is A3. I know, right? Yep, eventually. Of course. I know, right? Yep. So, if I consume, yep, right. So, how you know this? Because we said so? Right. You did not point us out. I know, eventually. Of course. At least he's trying to, right? Yeah, yep. Right, if I consume, yep. Okay. So, what are you gonna keep on them? Because we said so? Yep. Right, I did not point that. I know. For some reasons. Of course. So you didn't know this? Nope. Right. Sure you were that? I know. For some reasons. So if I could assume. Yep. Indeed. Right. Did I realize that? Nope. Okay. For some reasons. So if I could assume. Yep. Right. Wait, how do we know that? Because we said so? Right. So, if I could assume? Yep. Indeed. Of course. So, did I realize that? Nope. Alright, good enough. Okay. Whoa. Hawaii? If I could assume. So, how are we gonna find them? I don't know. So, if I could assume, just don't have it yet. Eventually. Right. Yep. Of course. I didn't know this. I know. Eventually. Right. I did not realize that. I know. For some reasons. Of course. So did I realize that? Yep. Right. For some reasons. Eventually. So, you did not sweat that. I know. If I could see him. So, did we realize that? Yeah, yep. And, did I need it for itself? Nope. Okay. If I could assume, eventually. Right. Did I realize that? Yes. I was trying to get to that also, eventually. Of course. Yep. Right. Do we realize that? Nope. Of course. I was trying to, okay? So how are we gonna figure this out? Because we said so? Yep. Right. If I could assume, eventually. Of course. Yep. For some reasons. Nope. Right. Did not realize that. I know. For some reasons. Yep. Right. Did I realize that? Nope. Of course. Do we need to figure this out? Nope. Right. You sure? Yep, it does. Of course. I was trying to. Yep. Did I realize that? Nope. Okay. You sure? Yep, it does. Eventually. Of course. I'm not sure I realized that. Yep. Sure about that for some reasons. Eventually. Of course. Not sure I realized that, isn't? Nope. Right. Did I realize that? Nope. Of course. Because if I consume. Yep. Right. You did not realize that. I know. Eventually. If I assume, definitely. Right. At least I was trying to, okay? If I assume. Yep, it does. Of course. So let me know, okay? It's Looper from Mario. Right. So if I assume. Yep, indeed. Of course. Did I realize that? Nope. Right. For some reasons? Yep. Of course. At least I was trying to. Right. Do we realize that? Nope. Okay. For some reasons? Nope. Alright then, let me know. If I assume. Yeah, yep. Okay. Actually? Yep. Alright then, let me know. So, if I assume? Yep. Enough, actually. If I assume, definitely. Yeah, no, you're right. Yep. If I assume. Right. Did I realize that? Yep. Of course. I'm not sure what is that. I know, visually. So if I assume? Yep. Alright then. Oof.